right, friends, this is one of those trainings you get every year. It goes along with your VLS. If you're at the CDC, it's something that we are always going through. Youth Center, so I know sometimes you could potentially do one of your lock-in nights where children might sleep, so you can go ahead and apply some of these safe sleep practices to that. It's going to be on a rare occasion for you guys, but just so we can get it done for our annual training. So our training objective is, again, just to understand the safe sleep practices that we use at the CDC in our FCC homes to help mitigate the effects of SIDS, the sudden infant death syndrome, and just what we do every day. So coming straight from VLS, why do we do safe sleep? It's going to be for our sudden unexpected infant death, which SIDS falls under. It's going to be any unexpected death for children who are under the age of 1, and it's when the cause is not obvious before an investigation is done. The statistics is going to be the most recent that VLS had online, that approximately 3,600 infants die suddenly and unexpectedly each year, and half of those sudden unexpected infant deaths are caused by SIDS. SIDS is the leading cause of death for infants between the ages of 1 to 12 months old, and it's the third leading cause of overall infant mortality in the US. So some of the things that we even purchase for infants have changed over the years, and some of that is due to now some of the known risk factors that increase the risk of SIDS. What are some of those risk factors that you can think of that might increase the risk of SIDS in infants? Bumpers, blankets, pillows, swaddles, stuffed animals, huh? Things in the crib. Anything in the crib. Are they allowed anything in the crib with them? Yeah. Skip one. That one got out of order. So for sudden infant death syndrome, or SIDS, it is going to be any infant death that we cannot explain. It does not include suffocation. It's not something that's caused by complications from immunizations. It's not contagious. If you have one infant that passes from SIDS, somebody else who was in the same room is not at an increased risk of SIDS. It's not the result of neglect or abuse. It's not caused by the crib itself. It's not from vomiting or choking. So anything that we cannot explain, that there's no reason for it. So while it's not completely preventable, there are ways that we can reduce the risk of SIDS in our centers and in our homes. So you guys touched on a lot of the known risk factors that from research we have discovered. So it's sleeping on their stomach and side. So that's going to be primarily our infants that are not able to roll back and forth. If they're sleeping on their stomach or their side and they cannot flip back over, they're at an increased risk of SIDS. Having soft surfaces. All of our cribs in our CDCs have a thicker, firm mattress, even when they are even when they're mat sleeping in the infant room. It's a thicker, denser mat than what they use when they transition into the pre-tot rooms. Having any blankets or toys in the cribs with them. Getting too hot while sleeping, exposure to smoke.
Is that new?
What part?
Exposure to smoke. I never seen that one.
I don't know how recent it is. Again, I'm just grabbing all of these from the VLS module that our trainings come from.
What do they say is new?
The exposure to smoke.
Nope, that's not new. That is not new.
Little to no prenatal care, premature or low birth weight, a sibling who has died of SIDS, sleep in an adult bed with others, or sleeping in a bed with another person who is covered with a blanket. So again, a lot of these go on that it's a soft surface, there's soft objects in there with them. So all of our cribs, they're in there by themselves. That takes care of 90% of what is on that list. So this is going to be a brief video that is embedded in the VLS training. Just go ahead, and if you are from the youth center and you don't have all of that experience of the classroom, this is a good way to see some of the things that they do in the rooms, and a refresher for some of our teachers who are not in the infants to see what they do to help with the safe sleep practices. It did not play. Try it.
Oh, you gotta.
I gotta what? It did not play. It's there.
You gotta press play.
We're gonna role play the video.
Meet the baby.
It's my first technical difficulty.
While you're waiting, go ahead and think at your table some of the things that you know that we do in the classrooms, or when you've done peer shadowing in infant rooms, what they have set up in the room to help with the safe sleep practices.
They have pictures, they have a table that they can roll over or not. They check them.
Checking.
Go to sleep. Discuss with everybody. Yes.
I must say,
It did
oh, it's like and roll enough so that way roll over on
I think with safe environments, we should search. All right, here's your video.
Everybody awake?
Is that as long as it goes to right?
Now, if y'all are gonna talk, you cannot hear the video. Everybody put a bubble in their mouth, please.
Catch a bubble.
The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends that all infants under 1 year of age sleep on their backs every time. It can be difficult to make sure substitute caregivers, volunteers, or other adults who work in your room understand safe sleep practices. In this video, you see an example of the way one program communicated that back is best. Here you see a photo of the child and 2 reminders. He sleeps on his back, and he can roll over by himself. This sheet is posted near the baby's information chart. Now, all caregivers who come into the room know exactly how to take care of Mateo.
I think it skipped like 10 seconds of it. It was less than a minute. It was a real quick one. You can go ahead and go back to the. In the video and in the classroom, while she's getting back onto the slide, what are some of the things that we do around the room and around the center to help with safe sleep practices and reducing SIDS? I know some people were kind of shouting it out up here.
They check on the infant frequently when the infant is sleeping,
Checking on them frequently.
putting them on their backs to sleep.
No sleeping in bouncers.
sleeping in the bouncers.
Sleep on the mat.
On the mat. All right. Your thing's not clicking now, friend.
What'd I do?
There, up. All right. So one of the first things that we have is in all of the sleeping areas for infants, we have our sleep poster. It's not just one poster that's on a parent bulletin board. It's in every area that's intended for sleep for infants 12 months and younger. Why do you think we have to have it in multiple places?
There's multiple cribs.
Multiple cribs, what was that?
I said because people don't read something if it's in one spot.
People don't read something when it's in one spot.
Constant visual reminder.
Constant visual reminder. It is here not just for the parents, it's here for caregivers. Parents, when they're coming up to their crib, they might be first-time parents. It lists most of what our requirements are for safe sleep and how they can encourage safe sleep practices. All of these can be applied in the home. So it's there as a constant visual reminder for our parents, but also for caregivers. It's easy to slip up. You might not know that particular child. So when in doubt, you're placing them on their back no matter what. But when in doubt, you're always going to do that. And also because we have caregivers who float amongst the age groups, they might not be well versed in infants, that they are a preschool teacher, that we need them in infants that day. This is a reminder for them. They might not have done VLS for a while, and that a lot of these practices don't necessarily apply to preschool. They don't have to place their preschoolers on their backs to bed. Their preschoolers can have their blankets, so it's just a constant reminder for all caregivers. Additionally, above every crib in our infant rooms and even in the mat sleep area, every child will have this sleep chart. On the sleep chart, they have the child's name up at the top. Most have been updated to have the child's picture next to it as well, so you can have that visual confirmation that it is the correct child. It's updated with the date every day, with the time that they fall asleep, the time that they wake up, but then you are checking every time that you check on that child. We are frequently checking on our infants. About every 15 minutes, you are walking up and visually checking on that child as they are sleeping until the moment that they wake up. The last part of this is, my graphic was a little dark, that at the bottom it says I can roll over or I cannot roll over. They are placed on their back no matter what. But if I have a child who cannot roll over and they roll onto their side or onto their back, I have to roll them back. If you do not know, when in doubt, you're putting them on their back. And I just have my little catchphrase. If rolling lacks, roll on back. It's a real quick reminder. And it's not just that they roll them from front to back one time. They need to be able to do it consistently, independently. Once that is done, then we can mark that they have rolled over, and the parent is also confirming with us that they're able to do it by themselves. Once they can roll, if they roll on their belly while they're sleeping, that is okay. I know a lot of us, we are belly sleepers. We sleep better that way. So once they're able to roll and they go on their belly, that is fine. Any questions on the sleep chart and them being able to roll?
Sometimes the parents will say they do it, but we haven't seen it, so we don't do it.
Yep, that's why I'm like, when in doubt, you are keeping them on their back. It is better to have them on their back than to question it and have them be on their belly and have something happen.
And always remember, even if they roll, you still have to place them in the crib on their back.
They have to be on your back.
Yeah. So if they can't roll, they'll roll themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You place them on their back. Even on their backs, on the floor.
Yep. Jennifer?
It's not a question about this, but the slide before, about the safe sleep.
Uh-huh.
What is considered too hot?
Too
when
hot.
they sleep? Yeah, because it was on the list.
So we do have an AFI for like the temperatures within the room. I believe it goes up to 83.
82 or 83, yeah.
Yeah. So it's once it gets past that threshold.
Okay.
But that's also where it comes into how many layers they're going to bed in. If you have a baby that has like a onesie and then a jumper and then like the zip up sleeper, that's probably too many layers for that baby. So I'm kind of minimizing the amount of clothes that they have on when they're going into bed.
You guys know how to check if the baby is too hot? Back of the neck, or you can put your hand on, like right here, the finger, right here on their chest. And if their chest is hot, then they're too hot. If their chest is feeling somewhat normal, then we're okay.
Sorry.
Yeah,
So when our room was really warm though, like parents were dressing them for the weather. Like they'd come in for winter weather and their extra clothes were for winter weather. So we were kind of, didn't have many options, like we can't just have the babies naked in the room and our room was hitting like 80 degrees. So that's
Right.
why we were wondering like what point is it?
And then if they start sweating, like they're drenched in sweat, we have the windows open, at what point, we communicated with management, at what point is it too
Which
hot?
I know
That's what
management
we're-
has been in contact with CE, trying to get those temperatures under control for those rooms. It's gonna be waiting for CE to kind of get back with us on that part.
That's why we were able to tell you guys to combine down in that. If we know your room, like the other day, I know your room was really hot, and I was gone, but Sheree called me and I said, okay, if they're able to combine them with a different classroom, because I know that room is really hot, and while CE's still trying to figure out when they're coming, we can at least move you somewhere where it's not so hot.
Have you communicated with the parents about the temperature in the classroom and said like, hey, bring onesies, like, literally it's too hot, just bring a onesie and we'll change them in the onesie?
Yeah, we've done that multiple
Okay,
times,
yeah.
and now they do come in, so
Okay.
when it is cold, then we have to put an extra layer on
Right,
right now.
right.
But we have communicated multiple times.
Alana, could you stand up and show us, you
Oh,
know,
I'm sorry.
only because I didn't know that.
Yeah, if you,
So she's saying taking your fingers and putting them right on the chest. Yeah, taking your fingers right on the chest to check.
right here, and just hold it onto their chest and see if they're too hot.
You'll feel their sternum bone,
Yeah.
right there.
And that will tell you really. Because sometimes your head is hot or cold, or sometimes our hands
Or if you're gifted with a baby with a lot of hair, it'll be really hot.
Yeah, so
Then on the camera, it looks like a.
All right, the next practice that we have, this does go for every age group in this room, is going to be supervision. It is active supervision while they are sleeping, and it is critical for all of our ages to ensure safe sleep. This goes for preschool as well. What is active supervision while they are napping?
Checking everybody's breathing.
Yeah. So you're doing nap time checks while you are able to go through and work on lesson plans if your children are sleeping and do little things in the classroom. You still need to be up, moving amongst your children, checking on them. You are directly able to observe the children by sight and sound at all times for all ages. Infants, you are physically checking on your sleep chart that you have gone over to that crib and you have personally checked on that child. All of our other ages, you are still walking around your classroom, checking on each child as they're on the mat to make sure that they are not covering themselves with blankets, that they're not getting entangled with anything that they have, and they're not venturing off of their mat. So things that you are checking for while you are up monitoring your children. What are some of those things that you're going to be looking for?
Make sure their little back is going up. Or
That there's movement, that if they're on a crib, on their back, you're checking for their chest going up and down.
That their head is safe, you know, their side. Yeah.
Their face needs to be free of everything. Yes, ma'am.
You still need to check that the crib is clear, but like, this happens in my own house. My 4-year-old sticks crib, like, toys in my son's cribs, and like, I walk away and I come back and there's a toy there, I'm like, but like, your kids can very much do that in the classroom, you know, like, stick a toy there.
Absolutely. So even if you're placing them in a bare crib, we do have mobile infants that can put some of our smaller toys through the slots of the crib.
And they usually do
Take pacifiers. So we're checking their face, they're checking the breathing, the color of the skin. Yes, Leah?
For preschool, I don't know, this is hard, when they can cover their own face, but as soon as they fall asleep, we uncover.
As soon as they're falling asleep, we are removing that cover so we have a visual on that child so that we can see them breathing. We can see if the color of their skin is changing while they're sleeping.
But they're allowed, if the kid
They-
does it.
I know my brother, he was one of those ones, he had to be a cocoon to fall asleep. So he had to be completely covered, but then you are uncovering it. Yes, Ms. Wright?
I got one, as soon as he turns, and you feel that the blanket is off, you put it right back.
Just keep on.
So then he probably wasn't fully asleep. But still, it has to come off of their face so we have that visual on the child. I know it can be difficult for some of the children, but it has to be off of their head. It has to be completely free of their face.
Infants don't go to sleep with anything on their head, no hoodie jackets.
No, so infants, they cannot have hoodies on their onesies. Any of the drawstrings cannot be on their onesies. Pacifier clips. We do not have pacifier clips in the center. Babies who use pacifiers to fall asleep, they can keep it as long as it's in their mouth. The second that pacifier comes out of their mouth, it's out of that crib. We do not reinsert a pacifier in a sleeping baby. So if it's in the crib, it's gone. Huh? They can have pacifiers if it's still actively in their mouth and they're actively using it while they're sleeping. If it falls out of their mouth, it's gone.
But if they wake and we're putting them.
If they wake, you can reinsert. Yeah, but we're not just leaving it. I know I was guilty. My son had them going around his entire crib, so as he rolled over, he had one to pop in himself. We cannot. And now, if I had another child, there would not be extra passies, but we're just removing them in our own cribs. Yes, Hannah?
Wait, I have like, can you explain that more? So, if, like, they're falling asleep, and sometimes it falls out of their mouth, and it's right beside their mouth, we have to immediately take it out of the crib?
Are they asleep?
Yeah, but what if they wake up and they move?
If they're asleep and the passy is in the crib, it needs to be removed from the crib. It cannot just be there if the baby is fully asleep and they're not using it.
Like a little step away from this
It's not to be in the crib. The crib is completely bare.
Should be the baby.
Yeah. It's completely bare. If it's out of their mouth, it's out of the crib. All right. Tummy time is another practice that we do in infants to help build some of those muscles for children. It is a supervised time for our infants who are not able to roll back and forth. We're doing the supervised tummy time. That means I am within arm's reach of that infant. If I put them on tummy time, I am staying with that child until tummy time is done. It is recommended that for infants who are under the age of 6 months, when we're doing tummy time 2 to 3 times a day. It is only for about 3 to 5 minutes at a time as they're tolerating doing the tummy time and as they're showing that they are enjoying that tummy time with the caregiver. It's a great time to make that bond, that relationship with the child and building that trust with them. But they're also working on their neck muscles, building all of that upper muscle strength for the infant, and it will help with them rolling back and forth. Now I know, like my child, he did not like tummy time. So that's where it comes, as they're tolerating it, you can add more time. And as they're now enjoying it, we can go longer than those 3 to 5 minutes. Safe sleep guidelines. So just a quick recap of what we need to be doing in the classroom. We're placing the infants on their back every time, no matter what. It is a firm crib mattress. They are covered with a fitted sheet so that there's nothing loose on the mattress. All soft objects are out of the cribs. Now our older pre-tots and above, they do have blankets or small stuffed toy that they bring with them for comfort. Those are okay, but in our infants, we're keeping everything out. Some of our infants, they do use sleep sacks. So they are like the zip up blanket that are arms free so that they are able to still roll by themselves. We're providing those daily supervised tummy time. Keeping sleep areas free of hazards such as cords and wires. This is something that all rooms need to be aware of, is where you're putting like your radio for that nap time music. checking where those cords are and if they are in reach of the children. Inspectors are going to be looking for those cords and how accessible they are for children as well. Removing bibs, pacifier clips, and any clothing with hoods and cords. The pacifier clips are not in the center period to begin with. And then we're just making sure that they don't have those hoods and cords on their onesies. Bibs, the most I see is when they're in the bouncers, if they have like that time frame that they need to be sitting up due to like reflux, that they need to be sitting up for 15, 20 minutes. They do still have their bib on while they're in the bouncer. If they fall asleep during that time, we have to remove them from the bouncer, and you are holding them for the remainder of their time before you can place them into their crib. Anything that's not intended for sleep, our infants are not allowed to sleep in. So that's where it comes into placing them in safe places, never in bouncers, play gyms, swings, things that are not marketed to sleep in, they cannot sleep in. Questions on any of these guidelines?
And those sleep sacks cannot come from home either. Some parents will ask.
Yep, sleep sacks are center provided sleep sacks. Yeah. Any other questions on this portion? All right, then we're going to move on and we're going to apply this knowledge. We have an example here. What are some of the good and bad things in this picture?
Everything is bad.
You see nothing good?
I see nothing.
Okay, sleeping baby, that's a positive. The baby's only in a onesie, so it's not overclothed. Okay, and then the negatives. Pillow. Yep, so we got a pillow. We have a bumper. These were marketed just a couple years ago. Was that you wanted the cutesy nursery, that everything matched? Then they switched to the mesh bumpers. Now it's pretty much no bumpers at all. We have a flat sheet there that they can get tangled in. So before bumpers, it was one for to be cute, and so they don't stick their appendages through the slots. Now there are a few that I think that are still marketed that they're mesh, so they're breathable.
Just make cribs that are like long baskets, kind of like they don't have that where you can stick.
Get on that, Leah. Because a long basket crib.
Don't look like that so they can't stick their arms out.
All right, so everything we just noted. What does this baby got going on? But this is how Babies R Us would market it. Babies R Us would say this is cute. Too many toys. There's too many soft objects in here. Baby's not happy because he's not safe. So he does have like a fitted sheet, and it is kind of like a sleep sack scenario that he's got going on. What about this one? Look at that bare crib. There's nothing in it. The only thing that I might note is that his hands are covered. We don't really use mittens, so that would be my only thing, is that having his hands free. So if he is a roller, he's able to kind of grip as he's rolling. He's so serene. No toys. We got 2 toys here, a pillow, a blanket. Miss Jennifer noted that there's a wire that's going right behind it. That's definitely within his reach. The crib is the crib. This is like a day bed scenario with the crib. A plant next to it. So it's not just the crib, it's everything that surrounds the sleep area.
Is it non-toxic?
We don't know if it's non-toxic. We don't know what type of soil they're using, if it's fake or not.
Could the baby get the cord from that?
That's what Miss Jennifer had mentioned, is that there's a cord that is directly outside his crib. This is more preschool. What's going on with preschool? So some centers, they do have cots. Liam's first daycare, they had a cot. But what, besides it being on a cot, what is it? Their blankets, so they can have blankets. His head's somewhere in here. How am I be able to actively supervise this child when the only thing I can see is that 1 foot?
Oh, I know a question.
So that's where you're gonna uncover his head. Their mats need to be head to foot. So his head's here. The next child, it's his foot that would be next to his head. Tina.
Can the older kids have pillows? Not a king size.
Yes.
All of them.
I think that's more of a room decision on what you're having, what your guidelines are. Yeah, these are preschool age kids, so like they can have small pillows. Kelly. Hang on, I can't hear Miss Kelly.
Is there ever a situation when the blanket's like too bulky or too big?
I would say a small child blanket. Some of these are more of a twin size blanket. They're not going to bed, they're going on a mat. You can ask a parent to bring in a smaller blanket or a travel blanket. If they can't fit in their cubby, it's probably too big for them to have on their mat. And I know some rooms, they say you can bring in stuffies with you. You might want to let your parents know what size stuffy you're talking about. If it's okay to bring in a small, like Beanie Baby size, or if they're bringing in their big Build-A-Bear, who then has all of its accessories to go with it. That is where your parent, like newsletters would come in when you're giving them that information as well. Miss Beverly.
We have to remember that for preteens and toddlers, if they are bringing a stuffed animal, it cannot have the bead eyes. It has to be fabric, because if the bead eye comes off, then it goes as a choke hazard. So all of their stuffed animals have to be fabric eyes.
Just preschool for the pillows. Don't believe so. Alright. This sweet little girl.
They got too many bubbles.
So this is what I was talking about. I would have this happen with Liam's crib all the time. You have all the extras. All those extras have to come out. They're not in use. This is our last one, guys. Perfect. Look at that baby. So serene. It has just the fitted sheet on the crib with it. It is sleep sack. These are like the ones we use in the center that they are arms free. One pacifier. There's no clip on it. It's in their mouth.
We think there's netting on the side.
It might be that mesh bumper. We're ignoring the mesh bumper. It is just the baby and the fitted crib.
It's just a net.
Alright, so we have our crib, fitted mattress, nothing else in it. Our pretons, and above you have your mat with a fitted sheet. They can have a blanket, small stuffy if your room is allowing it. No matter what, he does need shoes. We do say that they have to have their shoes on in case we do a fire drill. So your sleep takeaways. The babies sleep safest when they sleep alone, and wherever they're sleeping, they're by themselves. They're sleeping on their back, and they're in a bare crib.
Hey, that means sleeping alone. We have several twins that come in, every once in a while we have twins. Sometimes they're in the same class and they're different. If a parent says, oh, can they sleep in the same crib?
Nope. We do not crib share. Even if you go into the room and they have children visiting from another class, it is one crib per child. They're changing out even those sheets for a new child to go into the mat. So just a recap, we are providing the safest sleep environment possible, placing children on their backs by themselves in the crib, and we are actively monitoring children during nap, no matter their age. If you need any further information, All of the information is found on VLS under the infant and toddler safe sleep, under safe environments. This is all of the resources that VLS utilizes in their safe sleep training. And then we have all of our AFIs that if you want to see the specific AFIs that go towards SIDS and safe sleep, you can reach out to anyone in management. We can get you the guidelines and the AFI. Any questions?
I just wanted to talk about the infants for fire evacuation. How many infants can go into one crib? 4. It is okay for them to be in one crib for that evacuation.
Yeah.
No more than 4 children. You cannot be holding any child or any infant because it's a real life emergency. You fall, you can injure that child, right? So we want to make sure that that doesn't happen. I do understand different situations and different children and different circumstances may happen, but we want to try to make sure the children are walking, and we're not carrying any of the infants. But yes, 4 infants for crib. And then how do you know if it's a fire evacuation crib? It got the red wheels on the bottom as well as has a sign on the crib that says fire evacuation crib. And for the most part, they have one at the front door and one near the back door. So if they have to evacuate through their front door, they have a crib right there already to go, and then they have a crib in the back door. What do they need to make sure they bring for a fire drill? Every room, every age group.
The kids.
That's important.
They can have 4 infants in that crib during that fire evacuation.
Oh, yeah, next week.
I don't think I would say
Thank you.